think I became that guy. Let's cut to intro. Through the generosity of a friend, I received the game Islebound, and I was very excited to play this. I mean, it's Red Raven Games. It's Ryan Lorcat. He's brilliant. If you don't know Red Raven Games and what they do, well, they are essentially one guy. Now, I know he has a few people helping him out, but Ryan designs the games. He does the artwork for the games, production, publishing. The guy is a freak. Like, in terms of being able to what he does, the guy he's amazing. Now, I love Above and Below. It's a brilliant game. It sits in my collection quite proudly, thank you very much, and I got it for my birthday a couple of years back, and I have loved it. I'm excited about the idea of getting Near and Far at some point. Loved 8 Minute Empire, which was one of his earliest games, and still today, years later, is a fun game to play. I really enjoy and think that there's a lot of good quality mechanics to take away from that game. Ryan deserves a lot of credit for his game design. Enter Islebound, where I was transported to a series of islands and had to engage in what is essentially a Euro-style gaming experience. There was a couple of elements in the game state that were dragging me out of my play, and I was struggling a little bit. I was struggling because I was making plays which I thought I was trying to commit to a bit of a strategy and a bit of an idea of where I wanted to go, and I kind of just got resource screwed a little bit. In terms of the gameplay, you sail around from harbour to harbour, and you can go into port, and if you do, you pay a cost of going into port, whatever that is. Then you can take an action. You could also use diplomacy to partner with a port, or you could use essentially violence to overcome port. But if you can't go into port, if you can't even afford to go into port, there is an alternative. You can just choose to go to another location, and then you can take the money from the treasure map. When you go into port, you pay a cost, and usually that cost goes into a central fund. One of the actions you can take is to take the money from that central fund. Think of it as like free parking, but you know, that's actually in the rules and not just house ruled like everybody does in Monopoly. Idiots. So what it becomes essentially is this accumulating resource where it gets to a point where it's pretty irresistible to just leave it there. But the other side of that is that sometimes you're just forced to take it because there's nothing you can do. The state of the game is such that, especially in the early stages, that when you are very limited in resources, it's really the only action you've got. Now, if everything from the central resource has been taken prior to you and there's nothing in there, then you can just simply take a coin from the reserve. But that's not a lot. That one coin gets you one action on another turn, perhaps, maybe. It's a skip your turn element to the game, which we all know, and especially in game design generally, isn't a desirable feature to have as part of a game. So Ryan offsets that by having some sort of gain for missing out on your turn, not being able to go into port, which is your turn being skipped. There's some reward, so you're not missing out, unless you've missed out on both. Unless someone before you takes the money from the center and you can't go into port, then you miss your turn, and the only reward is a single coin, which means maybe one action the next turn. If not, what it probably means, and what it means on many occasions, is you're really missing your turn for 2 turns. You're not going to be able to do what you want to do for a couple of turns yet, so you have to try and take a breather for a bit. Now, I really struggled with this because in the game, it just so happened that the person before me, rightfully so, playing well and playing intelligently, took the money from the center pile. But what it meant was that the next turn came to me, and I couldn't do anything else but take the money from the center because my resources were so limited. Although I had invested in a few things, perhaps I had miscalculated or tried to invest in something further down the track which would eventually pay off, but I had to still make actions in the meantime to get them to a point of paying off. So I'm stuck here, and I've got this one move that I can make, and it's just to take a single coin from the center. But that just didn't happen once. That happened several times, which meant that my interaction with the game was being slowly restricted. And while I'm not able to take turns, other people are able to take better turns, and they're making huge advances on their turns. What I found with that whole mechanic was that that one mechanic was putting a bit of a stranglehold on my game. Had I had more experience of the game, I would probably set myself up in a different position so that wasn't the case. But with it being a first-time play, it's probably likely that someone is going to get caught in that position. Even when you've got a game where there are 4 players competing over scarce resources, it's just as likely that someone is going to be in that position regardless of their ability to play the game or their better judgment of planning, more than once throughout the game. Now, you might think I'm making all this because I'm trying to evaluate the game, and I'm not, because quite frankly, the game is perhaps better designed than how I played it. Now, that's because usually Euro games aren't my style of game, not in terms of enjoyment. I quite like them, but just in my ability to problem solve through them isn't as strong as other people. So more often than not, I go into Euros kind of expecting that I'm not going to perform terribly well, but I'll give it a good shot and I'll have a good go and just try and have some fun. So long as I can make plays and get somewhere and do something. But then something happened. I started to feel crap about my position. I tried to express what was happening from a game design perspective and try to look at it from a player position, and as a player try to comment on the state of play with some understanding, and to casually talk about this as a facet of the game. And I tried to articulate it in a very refined manner. I say there is a problem with these accumulative resources over time, isn't there? Especially if one is somewhat behind. It tends to leave you a little bit further in the dust. However, tally-ho, good show. It's been a good game so far, onward and upward. When really what it sounded like was more like this. I think I became that guy. Part of it was just this emotional reaction I had to the game, that I was being treated unfairly, and I didn't really intend it. I just sort of got to a point where I was more than just frustrated with the fact that I wasn't making good decisions. I felt the game was punishing me even more for the fact that I couldn't make better ones, or even when I had better decisions to make, I couldn't quite pull them off. And I wasn't even trying to whinge. I was trying to genuinely engage with it from a design perspective. However, my emotional state being what it is, probably took me down a path of not actually being all that enjoyable to play with. Other people were having a ball. They were enjoying the game. And even in my head, I knew that if I had another go at this game, I could probably do better and probably have a bit more fun with it. And there I was, sulking like Eeyore who'd run out of antidepressants. However, something happened, and I want to applaud this, because I think in gaming groups, you come across moments where you find yourself being the person you don't want to be, or you at least find someone in your group being the person that you wish they weren't being too. And I've always advocated that the group matters, and who you play with matters, and being able to trust each other matters. And in my group, some of my player base subtly let me know how I was going. Got to a point where one of the players did a massive move and pretty much made me realize that I was shut out of the game for good, and had no chance of really catching up. And I just sort of pretty much said, well, can you end it? And he said, no. Can you end it next turn? He said, maybe. I said, can you please end it? Came to my turn. I said, I really don't know if there's any decision I can make that would make a difference in the game. So I kind of just think anything will do. To which came the response, I think you're just in a grumpy mood now because you got behind. Well, fine. Be that way. A grumpy mood. You can see the state of the board. You can see how I was treated by the game. Not exactly fair, is it? Although, it did make me realise how I was being to the group. It was a fair comment too, because I was a bit of a grump. Probably wasn't being too nice about it either, or terribly pleasant. And suddenly I started to realise exactly how I was behaving. I wasn't out there trying to make this the best game for everyone. And even though my situation was poor, I wasn't being good-natured about it or even open to the fact that I'd screwed up the game and really deserved the position I was in. And through a few comments like that, and it wasn't too much, the group suddenly helped me turn around and realize that maybe I was being a bit of a jerk. With gritted teeth, I did my best to turn that attitude around. I must admit, there was a little bit of shame I felt, and shame is an experience that we have where we realize our position in the group has been diminished, or we realize that we've done something within a group that has earned the group's disapproval. And usually we try to minimize shame, but actually shame has a good purpose. It can have a good purpose about indicating to the individual how to function within a group effectively. Now, that's not the same as someone being intentionally shamed and mistreated as a way of ostracizing them from the group and saying that they're not worthy to be there. No, this is more the group subtly letting me know that there is something wrong with my behavior and my interaction with the group, and that I'm diminishing the experience of others, and that there's a better way to be. It was subtle, it was gentle, and it was appropriate. Fact is, we are incredibly social creatures, and from the very get-go, we are looking at each other for feedback on how to behave, how to be, and how to exist within our social groups and social standing. We go through these ups and downs, and over time, we slowly learn to moderate and get better at navigating those complex relationships. But there are times when, our emotions get the best of us, and sometimes we're not our better selves. Sometimes the better selves are shouted down by the demons in the back of our mind, who suddenly are let forth when a game screws you over continually for several turns in a row. But it was through the power of my group that I was able to transform that situation. I was able to step out of myself and realize exactly the sort of gamer that I was being, and that I wasn't really contributing positively to the group or to the game experience. I managed to stop being a whinger for the moment as best I could, and to try and just put myself back into the game and just give things a go, and just remember that I'm there to play and have fun. My group did an amazing job of not only putting up with me, but also just helping me to correct some of my behavior. And it wasn't nasty, it wasn't harsh, it was very appropriate. And it's exactly what I advocate for with groups when we're, as gamers, working together. Gaming groups should hold each other accountable. They should help each other to participate, and to participate in a way that is meaningful. And it doesn't have to be harsh or nasty. It's always uncomfortable, but that's not the same as being nasty. And so I have to admit, I'm very grateful for having a supportive group who are able to help me snap out of it and to get back into the game. I think it's something that we, especially as tabletop gamers, have the benefit of being able to do, is to help people to be a part of a group and to teach each other how best to behave. And you don't get that on online gaming experiences. It's usually people in their worst horrible moments of feeling frustrated or drained or tired or angry, just blurting it out endlessly in a continual stream of vitriol over the microphone into other people's ears. And it can be such a horrible, and we even admit, abusive sort of environment to be a part of. But when you're in a group, when you're with people you care about, when you're sitting face to face, when you're facing them across the table, you're forced to work with a certain sense of empathy for the other. If you want to interact well, if you want to be a part of the group, if you want to be at the gaming table and enjoying each other's experiences, and most importantly, if you want others to pick up another game and play that game with you, then you've got to learn how to behave and how to interact. This isn't about, controlling each other. It's about providing meaningful feedback. My group provided me with meaningful feedback that helped me snap out of my situation and to just invest in the game and have some fun. That both benefited the group because I wasn't being a whingy jerk, and it benefited me because I was able to enjoy the game again instead of being frustrated with the silliness of the situation. And so I'm really grateful to my group for helping me to get back into it and keep going. Of course, I'm also really grateful to my group for not being too punishing when it turned out that I'd actually won the game. If you are looking at a good game, I can recommend Islebound if you're up for a bit of resource management, Euro-style gaming with some good, fun, non-Euro style elements mixed into it. However, I also recommend playing it with a good group who can help you out when things get tough. But that's all I've got for today. If you like what we're doing here, please hit that like button. If you're new to this community, please hit that subscribe button. We love to have you as part of the conversation. In the meantime, can I encourage you to go and check out www.gamerpalooza.com.au for all your reviews and gaming news. And until next time, my name's Dave Adams, and you have been watching Nerds of Wisdom.